Welcome back to Heather's on Culture. So 2020, we
Yes.
got a new theme song. Shout out to Kimmy Pearson for capturing the essence of our show in musical form. I'm loving it is all I can say because
Me
he ain't go.
too. Me too. So, cousin, we appreciate you because, yeah, you did your big thing on that one. I really appreciate it a lot. He said that he was inspired and he just took the game and ran with it. And so, if any of y'all out there are looking for a theme song for anything, that's the one to go to. Holla at us. All
Right.
right. But the other thing that I want to talk about, twin,
Mm-hmm.
I am currently, of course, it's post Thanksgiving now. I'm currently in the process of trying to find multiple recipes so that we can use up the rest of this turkey and the rest of this ham. Tonight, I'm actually making etouffee, except instead of chicken, I'm making it with turkey. So we're going to see how that turns out. But, you can't let anything go to waste. Nothing.
A
So
20-pound turkey.
my daddy was not playing around. 20-pound turkey and probably at least a 10-pound ham. And
Mm-mm.
so we've had ham and beans. We get ready to have turkey and dressing casserole. Just a little bit of everything, but I don't want to see any of that go to waste. How was your Thanksgiving?
Bless your heart. It was good. Went to my uncle's house and then went to a cousin's house and just had some good family time. We always do a annual family debate on a hot and heated topic. And if I may say so myself, I always win. So I be wiping the floor with them because I know they debate. Um, I just, yeah, I be coming with the come on. So it was good. I had a good time.
Thank goodness I had put up a lot of my Christmas decorations, so I got to we cooked and I got to chill a lot with everybody. It was nice. It was a really nice Thanksgiving. So,
Listen, I know Santa Claus is coming to town, but I don't have nothing up. But funny thing is, at work, so we have a Zoom voicemail and we read the voicemails when people leave it for when they call. And so
mhm.
basically Santa called us twice. The voicemail said, "Hey, this is Santa. Can you please call me back? I would like more information on your organization." And did it twice in one day. I was done. It's I I just can't. But I love
Did
that
y'all
you're
call back?
no, I'm not
Oh,
going to
I'm gonna say
no.
it wasn't Santa.
My coworker tell me tomorrow if it was, because 'cause I'm not calling.
Well,
I
there it
wouldn't.
is. There it is.
Um, all right. So last episode, we talked about the 8 senators that caved on the government shutdown. And we promised a deeper dive on what we believe was the underlying motivation behind what we believe to be an orchestrated move by Chuck Schumer and company.
Yep.
So, today's episode is about a topic that we've been examining for a while in our studies, our presentations, and our conversations just as a whole.
Yep. So, as a community organizer, I think it's important to address because we're watching our democracy destroyed because people don't see it or they don't understand what's happening because of it. So we're talking today about white supremacy by way of white comfort, white liberalism, and the political complacency that is actively undermining democracy.
Just to be clear, we don't mean this in the buzzword think peace kind of way. We mean this in the very real, very structural way that shaped American politics for generations now, and how it's shaping the political crisis that we find ourselves in right now.
Exactly, twin. You know, if we don't understand how white liberalism and white comfort function in policy and not just in rhetoric, we just can't understand why Trump still has support. We don't understand why the Democratic Party keeps folding. And we really don't understand why democracy is eroding in broad daylight.
Yeah, so today we're going to break it all down, the historical patterns, the modern policies, and the way that white supremacy adapts itself into air quote nice versions that liberals embrace without
Mhm.
even realizing it. So we are going to do this again and make the critical comment.
as we do. So let's start with the number one question that people pretend to be confused about. Why do Trump voters stay loyal?
Mm,
Yeah. I think it's because they don't ever feel the consequences of the policies they vote for. It's just that simple.
right, and the crazy part is it's often, like, Democratic policies that end up buffering them or sheltering them from the damage of these really bad Republican policies and Trump policies at this point. For example, if we take the Affordable Care Act, which we've been hearing about a lot because of the subsidies and the shutdown, the areas that benefited the most from Affordable Care Act or Obamacare were rural, low income, heavily white Republican counties. And these are places where Trump later won overwhelmingly. I'm
And
gonna say it
it's the same with medical expansion. So Democratic pressure kept hospitals open in rural areas, especially in the Midwest and the South. That like I can think of examples from here in Missouri that really would show that. And so those communities, though, they still ended up voting for candidates trying to end the programs, keeping their hospitals alive.
Yeah, and we saw that during COVID, right? Like blue state governors, Democratic Congress members, they were the ones that were pushing for the economic relief. And who benefited from that? Rural white communities, again, that insisted that COVID wasn't real.
Yeah, yeah. And so meanwhile, Black and brown communities carried the brunt of the deaths, the job losses, underfunded health systems, and housing instability. They felt the consequences of both Trump's policies and the structural white supremacy underneath them.
And that's the hallmark of white liberalism, right? Like the reflex to protect white voters from any discomfort. And this even comes at the expense of the people who actually fight for democracy,
92%.
the 92%,
92%
which
is
we are
crazy.
definitely a part of.
Exactly. So let's talk about like the Democratic Party's role in all of this because, listen, democracy doesn't defend itself. It requires courage and action and risk. And a lot of them aren't willing to take those.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part about it is that most Democrats are not ready, right?
Right.
There are a handful of fighters that we know that we could name off the top of our head, like AOC, Jasmine
Mhm.
Crockett, Elon Omar, Ayanna Presley, Rashida Tlaib, basically only a few legislators who understand and call out fascism when they see it every time. But the majority still are pretending like we're in this policy disagreement era.
And that really bothers me a lot because it's just history repeating itself. Like, we've been here, we've seen this already during Reconstruction, after the Civil War. Like, white moderates prioritize reconciliation with Confederates over protecting black rights. And like there, I see the memes all the time that say like, "We are here because we didn't punish, the Confederacy."
Yeah.
Afterwards. That's how we arrived here. And so during the civil rights movement, they told activists to slow down and not alienate white voters. And that same energy is alive today. It's what's driving a lot of Democratic policy and Democratic actions at this moment because they're depending on norms and civility. They're saying things like, let's not escalate, let's not, you know, I hate to quote my girl Michelle, but the whole when they go low, we go high type thing. But meanwhile, the other side literally is escalating every single day. Every day I look at the news and it's like, oh, what fresh new hell do we have to endure today? And it
We like,
always right, they never disappoint me.
oh, wow, we're like in the 10th or
Disappoint me
11th circle of hell,
because right, what they do is what they do.
the belly of the beast.
And there
So
you go.
let's talk about what brings us here today, twin. So you so brilliantly explained in a Facebook post the three core reasons why Democrats are failing at this anti-fascism game, right? So
Mhm.
one, respectability politics,
Yep.
2, white liberalism, and
Mhm.
3, nice racism.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna call a spade, right? Respectability politics is poison. Point blank, period. It's the idea that if you're polite and reasonable, civil, and you're following the rules, the other side will suddenly care about ethics.
And guess what, twin?
Hmm.
They won't, and they don't.
Yeah, I mean, because we saw it during the civil rights era, right? What you just said, like respectability politics on Front Street. Activists marched in suits, they spoke eloquently, they did everything quote unquote right, and they
Uh-huh.
still got beaten, fire hosed, tear gassed, attacked by dogs, arrested, among other things, right?
Right. And, today Democrats will sit and still condemn protests for not being civil enough. And that really bothers me because let's just be real. Boston Tea Party was not civil. The American Revolution was not civil. There's a lot of stuff that have progressed us to being a nation that just wasn't civil. And so I think the biggest problem that I have is that they're tone policing. Basically, they're policing the tone of disenfranchised groups instead of confronting, the violence of the powerful, the systemic violence, the rhetorical violence, the, physical violence on down the line. And you just cannot respectable your way out of that type of fascism.
Right. And hell, let's
Not
be
any type
real.
of fascism. I said that type. Any type of
Yeah.
fascism, twin. None of it.
Let's be real, the Civil War wasn't civil.
It was
The
not.
before, the during, and the after. So
It was not.
why do we expect that from the disenfranchised when we are fighting against the very oppression and the oppressors, right? Like we supposed to walk the line, but they get to walk all over the line and cross
I
the
have a
line.
lot of theories about that.
Ooh, another
That's
episode. All
another
right.
po that's another podcast.
Yes. So let's get to reason number 2, right? Which is the crux of it all. So centering white feelings, white timelines, white comfort as the default starting point for change. That's white liberalism. It's not the hood and torch kind of racism. It's the we believe in justice, but not like that kind of racism. So,
Let
yeah.
Look, I had to sit with that for a second, I'm sorry.
No.
Um, you're right. So let's take policing. Every time there's a call to defund or reform or just plain stop killing people, right? Liberals jump straight to, well, we don't want our communities to feel unsafe, you know? But the communities they're talking about are white neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And the unsafe they're talking about is their personal fear of Black people, not Black people's actual lived danger with police. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I could give lots of examples of that even from here in my town. I'm sure you could give examples from your town as well.
Yeah, and then if we take a look at what that produces, right? That gets us
Mhm.
to cities pouring millions of dollars more into police budgets just to be safe, but that translates into safer white residents, while black and brown communities get over-policed, surveilled, and criminalized, right?
Yeah.
This is white liberalism. We're protecting white perception over black life. And meanwhile, those same white liberals will show up to a march once a year, maybe twice,
Mhm.
post a black square on their Instagram or their Facebook as their profile picture. And then they'll vote for moderate policies, right? Not liberal, not progressive, but moderate policies that keep police unions powerful and communities stuck in this same cycle of harm. And it becomes a harm with a polite smile, but we know what it really is.
Yeah. And I'm here in St. Louis at the heart of Ferguson and what happened in Ferguson. And that was one of the things, like, we literally had an entire commission that sat and looked at policing in the St. Louis area, how it was done, et cetera. And I can tell you honestly, very few of those reforms that were suggested have been implemented, you know? And so we have it to where, yeah, the same people that were suffering in 2014, 11 years later, are still suffering. So let's get to education. Education ends up being another one. Remember the whole panic over critical race theory? That's actually how I met you, twin. Oh,
It is.
yay.
Not
Yeah,
we're not giving the people credit. We're just saying that we both were in the fight, and because we both were
yeah.
in the fight.
Get them people. But because we were in the fight together against this whole demonizing of critical race theory, that's how we ended up meeting. But white liberal parents, not necessarily conservatives, but liberals, were opposing curricula because their kids felt uncomfortable. Meanwhile, kids of color have always learned history that erases them. Like, when I was in school, my discomfort never mattered. And I'll just remember, like, there's so many examples that I could tell people of where teachers made comments that made me feel, uncomfortable. But was that something that was addressed? Like, I can't tell you how many classes I was in where they were like, let's get the Black opinion. And then all the eyes turned to me to find out what I thought. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of pressure. I'm supposed to represent all the Black people? Like all of us?
All of them.
All of us.
Cool.
All
So
of so my
I
comfort and kids that look like me, our discomfort just never really mattered.
I went to a majority white Catholic school.
Bless it.
I will not name said school,
I would love
but I was usually anywhere from 1 to 5 to 1 to 3 Black kids in my class, right? And so I remember going home and telling my parents, like, the only time I learned Black history was during Black History Month, and, like, while that was cool, right, like, I wanted to learn more throughout the year, and so my mama was always the one to go down. She was like, 'cause Deidre don't play, her baby was coming home talking
no.
about the fact that we wouldn't learn Black history, so she called the school. And the priest at the time wind up calling my mama, right?
Mhm.
Because after she talked to the principal and all this stuff like this wasn't budging, they had the priest call her and tell her he didn't understand why she was upset. Isn't Black history enough? Because what about White History Month, right? This is a white male priest. And she said, well, you have White History Month every month of the
Every
year. So what's the problem? And then come high school, I everybody that know me and know my mama know I got Deidre all up in me. And so in high school, I went to an all girls Catholic school, not gonna name it, but remember going and saying something about to student council about the fact that, like, we weren't really celebrating MLK Day. I mean, we're only celebrating MLK Day. We were only selling Black History Month, right? Same old story. So remember going to this meeting, the principal was there. So I'm at my locker getting my stuff because I'm mad because it didn't go the way I wanted to go. Like, and the principal, a white male, comes up to me and was like, I think you should just be happy with the fact that, like, we at least do announcements every day about a Black history figure during Black History Month. Sir, get out my face. Um, get out my face.
Well, I'll never forget, beginning of junior year, I ended up, before I was able to change my schedule, I ended up with the same English teacher that I had a horrible experience with my 10th grade year, and I went to public school. And my public school, like, literally, there were 1,200 plus people in it, kids in it, and there were only about 30 Black people,
Mm,
and that was spread across the grades. But I walked into class junior year, and she's going over the syllabus, and I knew I was gonna switch out of the class because, yeah, we we were not
yeah,
cool. We were
yeah.
not cool at all. But so I raised my hand. I let her go through the syllabus, and I raised my hand and said, "Are we going to be looking at any Black authors?" And she actually was angry
Mm,
that I had asked the question at all. But again, you had Deidre, I had Sandra,
mm.
and they
Yes,
knew
I
not to
did.
play. They knew not to do it. Don't do it.
And now twin with children of her own, don't play. about her
You
babies.
know, I will take every brick off of every building in the district about my child, so
And I have seen her do it.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about another example, twin.
Alright.
Let's talk about reproductive justice because white liberalism is real, real loud in that room.
Really loud there.
Because white liberals focus on choice, but only, it seems, the choices that they imagine white women will be making.
Mm. So when Black women, Indigenous women, disabled women, poor women say, "We need childcare, we need paid leave, we need to survive childbirth in this medical system," white liberals act like those are side issues. Like reproductive justice is just the Roe versus Wade vibes. And it's more than that. We've seen two examples recently around that.
And historically, the reproductive rights movement has centered white women's autonomy while ignoring and or participating in forced sterilization of Black, Indigenous, Latina, and disabled women. And so while white liberalism is calling it freedom, whole communities are losing or have lost and continue to lose their bodily autonomy.
Yeah. So even today, like policy platforms prioritize things that poll well with white women, particularly white suburban women, like, for instance, privacy rights, but, not maternal mortality, not access for undocumented women, not the criminalization of pregnancy outcomes. We had an example down in Georgia. We had the woman who was brain dead, and they literally used her body as an incubator for a child, and now that child isn't doing well. But what they have done is they forced them to go through this entire process, but they aren't offering any type of financial support, help, anything. So even though the family has been was forced to keep, I think she was Adriana Smith, I believe is her name,
Yes.
forced her family to keep her body alive to deliver this baby for months. Now the baby isn't doing well, and so they have the bills connected to keeping her alive for all of those months to deliver the baby. And now that the baby has health issues, they don't want to pay for the babies either. They just wanted to make sure that she had the baby. And then we see examples down in Texas and well, were both of those in Texas where, one woman was sitting there literally in labor in this chair for
Yeah.
30 minutes while this nurse just dismissed all of her pain, etc., in order to ask like registration questions, stuff that could have been, taken care of after.
And you can wait
She
for.
she doggone near had the baby there in the chair, you
Yeah,
know?
one was in Texas and one was in Indiana.
Okay,
Um,
and then, yeah, the
mhm.
one in Indiana, she went to the hospital. They released her. She was in active labor. They didn't even bother to check all of that. They released her, and then 8 minutes after she was released, she delivers a baby right there in her car.
It's wild.
Her husband has to deliver the baby on the side of the road. So, when we look at all of this stuff, they're not creating policy. They're not looking at policy around some of these issues that Black women and Black women only face.
Right. I mean, Adriana was brain dead in February because she was only 8 weeks pregnant. They didn't deliver the baby until June with an emergency C-section. And now, as you said, the family is struggling to pay to keep the baby alive. He's now 11 pounds. They're struggling to keep the baby alive because the hospital, the government is not paying for that care. There's a GoFundMe. They should not have to rely on strangers to raise money to keep this child alive when they forced her her brain dead body to incubate and deliver a child, and not advocating and saying that the child shouldn't be here, like hoping that he pulls through, but the family is grieving their daughter while fighting for the life of their grandson. But that is how we end up with the same result. right? White liberals fight for their version of justice, the version that keeps them comfortable and that ignores the intersectionality of what Black and brown women go through, indigenous women go through when they have to interact with systems. And those communities that are most impacted by reproductive injustice are told, just wait, be patient, and meanwhile, they're dying quietly.
And so I think that that ties into that third point, which is nice racism. So nice racism can be tricky because it doesn't really look like racism at all. It looks like empathy. Nice racism says, I care, but don't change anything that affects me. And so we have all the outward trappings of caring. We've got the signs in the yard that say Black Lives Matter. We've got t-shirts. We've got, et cetera. Like, I always end up saying, Twin, why do white women feel like they need to accessorize the movement? Like
Mm,
every time something comes up, it's let's have a hat.
let's make a bracelet
Let's make let's make a bracelet.
to show that
Um,
I did
I
I didn't vote for that
Right.
man.
I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones. So I run a crafting group because you know me. I'm
You
getting
like
ready to say what I say and mean what I mean. So I did that in one of these general crafting groups. They kicked my tuchus out. And so I started another group. We have like almost 8,000 people that are part of it right now. And every time there's some type of major event, you've
mm,
got people coming on saying, "Can I have a t-shirt? Can you make me a t-shirt? Can you make me a duffel bag? Can you do this?" And, a button, a sticker, whatever it is, that that's not that's not the movement. That's
mm-mm.
not, again, that's the outer trappings of it. And so it's the politics of acknowledgement that there's a problem without any action to back that up in order to make change.
Or to identify yourself as someone that I didn't do it. It might be people that look like me, but I didn't do it. And it's just like, no, go get your people. Go get your
Yeah,
people. Instead
go
of
get your
asking me for a bracelet and a t-shirt and all this stuff that you may or may not wear around your family,
mm,
but you want to be used to identify in the publics and around the Black and the brown people,
mm.
right? If you a good one, we gonna know you a good one.
That ends up being something that I say when I do training is, listen, we don't need you to come to us to say you're one of the good ones. We need you to go into your spaces and show that you are one of the good ones by speaking out, by saying what needs to be said, etc. I have a friend that I absolutely adore. Her name is Laura. And one thing I know about Laura is she's getting ready. If it needs to be set off, she gonna set it off. And she's not gonna come to, my church to say, or my, whatever, my family reunion, whatever it is, to say it. She's getting ready to say it in her neighborhood. She's getting ready to say it in business meetings, et cetera, et cetera. That is
Exactly.
exactly what we need. Don't come to my neighborhood and tell me you're one of the good ones. Go to your neighborhood and show me.
Exactly, cause your people gonna listen to you before they listen to me. Go ahead and put your
Yeah.
body on the line before I put my body on the line, cause that's what you asking me to do if I gotta go to your neighborhood to teach, but then you come to mine with your T-shirt and your bracelet. Go over there with your T-shirt and your bracelet and put your life on the line over there. Then I make you a T-shirt and a bracelet if that's what you trying to do in order to spark conversation. But let me not go,
Some of that go
twin.
to me.
I don't wanna go there. Imma get hot and heavy. I don't wanna get hot and heavy on the people. But anyway, another instance of this is take immigration, right? So if you're a nice racist, you will condemn family separation, but you'll still vote for border funding, detention expansion, and deportation policies. It's just racism wrapped in comforting language that preserves the structure while pretending it's being reformed.
It's wearing a kente cloth.
Mm. Hey,
Kente
Nance.
cloth. And kneeling without passing any actual laws
Hey, Pelosi.
back up what you're saying. So
'Cause that George Floyd Policing Act of 2021 is still what? Not passed.
John
Another story.
Lewis Voting Rights
Funny.
Act, not passed. Housing policy ends up being another really good example because you got leaders that admit that redlining devastated Black wealth, but they refuse to support like zoning reform or affordable housing or any type of reparations that should come from the fact that we've had so much systemically that has disinvested in Black neighborhoods and disallowed Black wealth building, the ability for Black people to build wealth. And so, because unlike the loud versions, the outright keep them out stuff, because it's not that, nice racism like sounds really compassionate.
Mhm.
It'll say like, we care about fairness, but we just need to protect our community. A really good example of that too is here in St. Louis. We are literally split. So St. Louis City and St. Louis County are two different things. And
Mm.
in most metropolitan areas, the all of that, the county and the city are all combined in one and they're operating at one. But what ended up happening is that in St. Louis, we separated, and we separated based upon it was, racist policy that caused us to separate. Well, now there's a bunch of people that are like, let's join back together, but y'all don't want to join back together and share the resources from your school districts. Because, of course, some of the richest school districts are in St. Louis County. We have Ladue, we have Clayton, we have Kirkwood, we have so much, right?
Mm.
So many of these, Parkway and Rockwood, etc. Well, they split off, all of these little townships split off because of the fact that they didn't want to share with Black and brown people. And now the discussion around joining back together, reuniting the city with the county almost always excludes correcting the results of the racist policy.
Mm.
So the results of the racist policy is that we have failing school districts that are predominantly Black and brown. But those failing school districts are, even though they're predominantly Black and brown, is because, again, affordable housing, all of that, it's interconnected with one another. And so
Yeah.
I can't support it because we got to start by saying what are the policies that we're going to have that end up correcting the racial harm that's been done by the
Yeah.
fact that we made these decisions in the past.
Right. And so as you're talking about affordable housing and multifamily units in white liberal neighborhoods, and that reminds me, because I work in housing justice, right? That
Yes,
reminds me of a term I recently learned called a NIMBY, NIMBY, not in my backyard, which is a term for people who oppose developments that they see as negative for their communities. It's like having these white liberals who donate to the ACLU come to the mic at the zoning meeting and say, I support equity, but I'm just worried about all the traffic, or I totally believe in inclusion, but our school district might get a little overwhelmed. So it becomes racism wrapped up in this like concern language, but it's really kind of trolling, right?
exactly. And these are the same folks that would never call themselves racist. Like they go to equity workshops, they get the training, they vote blue every November, they show up to zoning board meetings to stop duplexes because they're not against affordable housing. But they just don't want it here. And we're having this issue as well around data centers.
Mm.
Like every white neighborhood or your predominantly white area that has had the option of, or a company has approached about putting a data center in them, they're fine. And they end up like organizing against it, saying like, we don't want that at all. There's one right now going on in Festus, Missouri around that. But
Mm.
the thing is like, do you show up the same way when it's a Black neighborhood
Oh,
that's
absolutely
going
not.
to be split? And they don't.
I mean, let's just be real. Like, single family zoning and all of these things that we're talking about that produce environmental racism, all of this was created to segregate. When white liberals are defending it with soft language by saying neighborhood character or heritage or the feel of our community, that is nice racism doing what it does best, right? Like protecting the historical racist structures that we know exist and continue to exist with gentle words.
Yeah. And, the reality is that Black families, brown families, they continue to get displaced across cities. If anyone has ever read the book, The Broken Heart of America, it was astounding to me just how much racist policy began in the St. Louis area. But then we also look at all of the communities that were destroyed, thriving Black communities that were destroyed as a matter of policy, implementing racist policy. And we see there's all of these like longstanding communities that end up being destroyed. And then people get pushed into moldy rentals, overcrowding circumstances, criminalization for homelessness because they've lost their home or, they've lost the ability to gain generational wealth because their homes have been undervalued, etc. But in those situations, like for a lot of people, the harm just really doesn't matter because nice racism isn't about outcomes. It's about white people, feeling good about themselves while nothing actually changes. Like, hey, yes, we did this, but we didn't call you the N-word while we did it.
Thank
So,
you, but no thank you. So, wow. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable, right? Because we need to start talking about what will and won't save us. So, the part that makes people uncomfortable is that this means that we definitely need to start saying that compromise with fascism is not compromise. It's surrender. It is surrendering to the ideology and the actions of fascism.
exactly. It's surrender because how do you compromise between here's a person that believes that we can use common things that's happening today. Alligator alley or whatever that was. Alligator
Alcatraz?
Alcatraz. That's it. Like, how do you compromise between that and what is righteous and moral, you know? There's no compromise there. And so history really backs this up. When we look at the compromise of 1877 that ended Reconstruction and unleashed like nearly a century of Jim Crow terror, it's like I said before, no, like there should have been consequences for these people. And there were none because we compromised, and that compromise was at the expense of Black people, of formerly enslaved people. And so we can also look at law and order compromises in the 60s and the 70s that ended up feeding mass incarceration, immigration promises. In the 90s, expanded deportations and detention. There's just so many examples of where we tried to compromise, and unfortunately, that compromise ended up with a lot of awful impacts on Black, brown, and indigenous people.
Including the Democrats and their crime bills in the '90s,
Mhm.
right, with crack and
Yep.
cocaine, the disparity in sentencing there, but when we look at the legal system, even judicial compromise right now is a disaster, right? Democrats play nice, and now we have all these extremist judges rolling back rights daily. The judges that are appointed by Trump, right? Because they were playing this long game. Even with the Supreme Court, like how Obama and companies sat there and said they weren't gonna he had 100 days left in office, and they decided that what they were not going to appoint and put up for confirmation the person he wanted to appoint to the Supreme Court because the Republicans said that he didn't have the right to do that, which he was well in his right
He
because he
was
still had
well.
100 days. And,
Yeah.
people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, God rest her soul, and, and thank you for everything you did, RBG. But ma'am, it was time to retire. You should have left before Obama got out of office, and you did not. And so right now, compromise has always, well, almost always meant white fears are being prioritized over marginalized lives. And today's obsession with we got to reach across the aisle, we got to be bipartisan is just the newest version of white complacency. And I'm tired of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Um,
so let's talk about what does fighting for democracy look like right now, twin?
well, just gonna say it straight out. It's rejecting white comfort as the guiding, organizing and political and policy principle.
And for me, it feels like it should mean, and it does mean centering the communities that are most harmed and not the ones most likely to feel uncomfortable by the slightest of uncomfortability.
So I think that you said something really important that I want to highlight. You said that, it literally is a game of pretty much to summarize, it literally is a game of white comfort versus, black and brown lives.
Yes.
For anybody that is moral, that feels that they're moral or upstanding, then they should be making the choice right there, and they should be making the choice in favor of what protects black and brown lives, indigenous lives, as opposed to what ensures white comfort. And so it really does mean also like making sure that we're calling a thing a thing.
Yeah.
All things what they are: authoritarianism, white supremacy, fascism, racism. Like, let's not use any euphemisms in order to describe what is happening within our communities.
And it also means that we need to push Democrats to take risk and not just give speeches. And those who have
Exactly.
been doing, you know who you are.
Mhm.
And we need term limits on legislators, right? Like we need a lot of these Democratic legislators, just as I just advocated with RBG, that there are Democratic legislators that are up for reelection in 2026 and they have spent decades in office. And it's
Decades.
time for them to be primary. Like it's time for them to go because they are not ready or willing to take on this fight, not in the way that is needed, right? They are there protecting themselves and they are not thinking about the American people. And they are spiting the same people that they're claiming to protect from the Republican Party.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that we need like new ideas, we need new blood, we need actual liberals and progressives in the Democratic Party. Right now, if the party won't fight, people have to become the pressure that forces these people to engage in the fight. If they won't, then they don't need to be elected. We need to elect those that are up for the challenge because we are not going to take our country back through like compromise with fascists. We're not getting ready to be like, well, instead of an alligator Alcatraz, can we just build a high security prison and put a bunch of people in it? No. We need to be envisioning something that's better for all people. And so we need to really elect people that are up for that challenge because we're not going to take our country back through compromise, as I said. We're not going to take our country back through nice requests, and we're not going to do it through patience, just sitting back and being like, well, eventually somebody will do something. No, the time is now. I had an interaction with a white liberal man who literally told me that black people need to wait because I asked him, I'm like, we've been waiting 400 plus years. How much longer do we need to wait? And his words were, as long as it takes.
Mm-mm.
And again, he was sitting there advocating for things that basically, again, assured white comfort.
Sir, no,
You
sir.
know, I'm we're, anyway.
I don't have no more patience. I don't wanna wait no more.
I don't
I
want
don't
to wait
want you to
anymore.
be we've
Like,
been waiting since Reconstruction and the Freedmen's Bureau and everything else that y'all promised us, and then y'all turn right back around and put these Confederates in office with no consequences. We've been waiting
we
since
have
then.
been waiting.
We've been waiting on reparations of some, right? But slave owners did not have to wait once slavery was abolished. They got paid the worth of their slaves. They got paid the worth of the land that we lost. They got convict leasing. They got slavery by another name, right? So
Yeah.
why we gotta wait? I'm tired of waiting. I'm
Pretty much he was saying that because, of course, I was upset and I was striking out against, like, the Democratic Party and some of the people that
Mhm.
folded, etcetera, and his whole thing was don't demand a fight because everything is so precious that we can't sit and spend this time trying to demand, people that are more,
Mm-mm.
willing to engage in the fight. We can't demand that right now. We just need to keep everybody else and be patient and wait, and no.
My question is what is he waiting for? What has he had to wait for? Because as a white man in America, which I'm gonna make some assumptions right now, heterosexual, you know, probably Christian or spiritual, middle class or higher, all of those things. What he waiting for?
Yeah,
What
and
has
I
he
agree.
had to wait 400 years for? What has he had to wait, what, 2016 to 2020? And then again from 2024 to 2025? What he waiting on?
You know, this same guy went because, one of my messages on my wallpaper ends up being "Leave Black people alone." And
Yes,
he came and was like, "I don't think that's the answer." No, it is the answer. Leave
please,
us alone. Like,
please.
literally, that is all we're asking. When I look on any social media platform, it always is a matter of here's Black people trying to have a Black conversation, and white people, white liberals primarily, enter the conversation and center themselves. Leave Black people alone.
And when we say leave us alone, it's not because we don't wanna be bothered with you. The thing is that leave us alone
In
means
terms of
stop asking us to fix what we did not break. Stop asking us to redo and what we did not create, right? Stop. Leave me
stop
alone.
asking
Go
us
talk
for
to I
labor.
do what I need to do. I do what I
Right.
need to do. I do my work. I do my work on myself. I make sure that I'm an advocate. I make sure that I am a part of the 92%. I'm out here voting the way I'm supposed to vote, and I'm out here being as vocal as I need to be to make sure that I am educating the folks. I'm educating myself, and I'm staying in this fight. Leave me alone and go over there and affect the people and talk to the people that really can end this because we cannot end where we didn't start. We can't.
And we basically need to demand a fight. And
Exactly.
that's what the two of us are doing. We're demanding a fight. And
Exactly.
if you're not up for the fight, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person, but it does mean we gotta we gotta do something better. So,
It
twin,
mean leave me alone. That's what it means.
leave me
All
alone.
right, twin. Now, speaking of, it's time to share our Black joy moments. So what you got to share with the people?
My Black joy moment this week was seeing Josh Shapiro sign the Crown Act in
Mm,
his state, especially after a very heated debate about Michelle Obama pointing out
mhm.
that we still have hair discrimination and so many people being like, nuh-uh, no, you don't. So, yes, Josh Shapiro signed the Crown Act, which makes it illegal for people to discriminate against Black and, organizations and individuals to discriminate against Black people by
Hairstyle.
hairstyle. So, what about you, twin? What was yours?
Love it. My Black joy moment was I saw on Instagram pictures and video of Michelle Obama, our forever first lady,
Yes.
Michelle Williams and Kelly Rowland of Destiny's Child getting together to go watch and support Monica and Brandy's The Boy Is Mine tour. And I'm going this Friday because they come to New Orleans on December 5th and I will be in the building.
Good.
But it gave me joy because I love to see Black women supporting other Black women. That's always a Black joy moment for me, and it reminds me so much of our friendship and our sisterhood because we support each other in everything we do together and separately, and that always comes with joy and sometimes, like, tough love, but it always circles back to joy. So
I love it.
that
I love
was my Black joy moment.
Yay!
So, listen, thank
Mm,
y'all for joining us. And we know that this was a big conversation with some hard truths, but as we explained, very necessary ones.
white supremacy along with white liberalism, white complacency, and white comfort are the forces that have shaped American democracy. And if we don't deal with them honestly, we can't protect what's left of it.
Yes. So we appreciate you for being here, for staying engaged, and most importantly, staying in the fight and bothering those that need to be bothered.
Bother them. Go ahead. Thanksgiving is past. Ruin Christmas dinner. Anyway, we'll
Please,
see.
and
We'll
send us video.
see you next time.
All right. Love you, twin.
Love you, twin.